Starting with metallic bonding, as we know that it's one of the three types of bonding, and this bond forms between two metals only. Metal atoms are held together strongly by metallic bonding. Now we have seen a structure of a solid as well. Let's say that is the structure of metals, and metal atoms जो हैं वो strongly किस चीज से जुड़े होते हैं? Metallic bonding. This is what makes those metallic structures stronger than non-metal, stronger than ionic lattices. So within the metal lattice, the term lattice क्या होती है? Lattice होती है जो सारे particles and molecules strongly make a cube structure या एक 3D structure बना लेते हैं, which is known as a lattice. It can be a cube shape like, and all the molecules joined together in one place as well. And within the metal lattice, the atoms lose their valence electrons and also become positively charged. Metals की हमने एक बात पढ़ी थी periodic table, that when we differ metals from non-metals, the difference is that metals lose electrons whereas non-metals gain electrons. Hence, whenever metal lose electrons, they gain a positive charge. For example, when calcium metal loses to electron, it gains a positive charge. Magnesium हो गया, magnesium also gains a positive +2 charge. Sodium metal है, sodium for example gains 1 plus charge as it is in group 1. ये group 2 में है, ये भी group 2 में, as you can see by the valence of electrons or the charge on the atom as well. Because we know that metals जो हैं वो group 1 to 3 में होते हैं. Group 1 metals all have a positive 1 charge. Group 2 metals, all of them have a positive 2 charge. And group 3 metals, for example, aluminium है जैसे, aluminium, all of them have a positive 3 charge in group number 3. Now the valence electrons no longer belong to any metal atom, and that is why we call them delocalized electrons. जो electrons valence होते हैं and they do no longer belong to any metal atom, we call them delocalized electrons, or we can also name them free electrons. Now they move freely between the positive metal ions like a sea of electrons. And I'll show you what that sea of electrons looks like when they are all surrounded, when the positive ions are surrounded by those negative electrons. And metallic bonds are strong and are a result of the attraction between the positive metal ions and the negatively charged delocalized electrons. So basically जो bond form होता है, that bond is basically between positive metal ion and the negatively charged delocalized electron. तो जो positive और negative electrons attract होते हैं, that is what the attraction is called, and that is what forms the metallic bonds. Now you can see over here the positive ions, ये जो metal lattice, let's say this is a metal lattice, and all these positive ions are surrounded by delocalized valence electrons. ये जो valence electrons होते हैं, ये अब they are no longer part of the metal atom because they have lost. ठीक है, जो calcium था, now calcium had 2 valence electrons in its outermost shell. Now, once the calcium has lost these electrons, it gained a positive 2 charge. और ये जो 2 electron थे, they have now become those delocalized electrons which are now surrounding those same metal ions. So in between this is a metallic bond structure. Whenever you're told to draw a metallic bonding, or whenever you're told to show metallic bonding, this is how you're going to show it. This is not like all the other that you have to draw a Venn diagram type structure, a dot and cross diagram. No, this is metallic bonding basically. So electrons, these जो सारे delocalized electrons हैं, these are basically the free electrons which were once valence electrons and lost. Okay, they are no longer part of the metal atom. Positively charged metal ions can be seen over here, which are surrounded by electrons which are delocalized, and now they are free to move throughout these structure. Now the free to move, अभी free to move कैसे helpful है? This free to move property basically gives metals the property of electrical conductivity. It gives them the property of electrical conductivity. They are now able to be good conductors of heat and electricity because they have electrons which can move freely. Whereas in non-metals, जो covalent bonding हम पढ़ेंगे, उसके अंदर the electrons are not freely moving. ठीक है, वो bond form कर चुके हैं, hence they do not conduct electricity. If we explain the properties of metals, the link between metallic bonding and the properties of metals. Metals, first of all, you should know, they have high melting and boiling points. We all know that. Okay? There are many strong metallic bonds in giant metallic structures. And why do they have high melting and boiling points? Because when you want to change their state, melting jab karni hai, boiling jab karni hai, when you want to turn those metals from solid to liquid or from liquid to gas, a lot of heat energy is needed to overcome those forces and break those bonds. You have to overcome those forces by breaking those bonds. Stronger the bonds, more would be the heat energy required to break those bonds, to overcome the forces, to overcome those forces of attraction, to overcome those intermolecular forces. So जितनी ज़्यादा heat energy चाहिए होगी, उतना ज़्यादा melting and boiling point होगा. More stronger the bonds, more the heat energy would be required, higher would be the melting and boiling points. So a lot of heat energy is needed to overcome the forces and break these bonds. This is one of the reasons and the answers for the question when the examiner asks you that why melting and boiling point is high. ये why का आंसर क्या होगा? Why high MP and BP? Why are melting and boiling points high? या किसी भी substance का boiling point और melting point high क्यों है? This is the answer right in front of you. That a lot of heat energy is actually required. वो जो heat energy है, that is needed to break those forces. अब forces जब strong होंगी, you would need more heat energy. Moreover, जो दूसरी property है that metals conduct electricity. Why? Because there are free electrons available to move and carry charge. जब free electrons available होते हैं, now they can easily carry charge from one place to another because the electrons are basically free to move. जबकि non-metals के हैं, ये non-metallic solids में free electrons नहीं होते. When we'll be studying about ionic bonding, now ionic bonding अगर solid में हो और अगर molten form में हो, it is different. If the ionic lattice is in solid form, it won't conduct electricity. But when the ionic lattice is in liquid or molten form, उसका मतलब क्या है? That electrons are free to move inside a molten state. So only molten ionic compounds can conduct electricity. So what is the reason? If the examiner asks why can metals conduct electricity, your answer would be due to the free electrons available. Why? Because the free electrons are available to move and carry the charge. Now electrons entering one end of the metal cause a delocalized electron to displace itself from the other end, and hence electrons can flow, so electricity is conducted. This is your answer for the question if the examiner asks why do metals or why metals are good conductors of electricity. अगर वो examiner पूछे that why are metals good conductor of electricity? How can metals conduct electricity? Why cannot non-metals conduct electricity? This would be the 3 points that you will be writing down. 1, 2, and 3. The free electrons की वजह से है, or you can name them delocalized electrons. Moreover, metals are also malleable and ductile. What is malleable and what is ductile? Malleable hota hai that you can press those metallic structures into sheets. If you compress them, you can turn them into thin sheets as well. What is ductile? Ductile ka matlab hota hai that, for example, a metal rod. That metal rod can be bent. You can bend that metal rod. You can change its shape. Now layers, what's the reason that why? Again, the question arises that why are metals malleable and ductile? Reason number 1, layers of positive ions can slide over one another. अब ये layers जो होती हैं positive ions, the layers of positive ions, now they can easily slide over each other. They can slide over each other and take up different positions due to their free movement. Moreover, metallic bonding is not disrupted as the valence electrons do not belong to any particular metal atom, so the delocalized electrons will move with them. Now you will be thinking that if they slide over one another, the metallic bonds will break. The reason is no. Metallic bonds break nahi honge because delocalized electrons are still present in the surroundings that will make new bonds और वो उनके साथ ही move करते रहेंगे. As the positive ions slide, the electrons would also slide along with them. Moreover, metallic bonds are thus not broken, and as a result, metals are strong, but they are also flexible. That is why they have a property of ductile, being bent. If this is a rod, you can bend this rod into a U shape as well. Why? Because metal is flexible, and the reason is written over here that why are they flexible. Moreover, ये flexibility का मतलब तो हो जाता है ductile. ये जो लिखा होता है metals are strong but they are flexible. This is known as ductile. ये property का नाम है ductile. Moreover, they can be hammered and bent into different shape. Hammered अगर करेंगे तो वो malleable कहलाएंगे. We call that property malleable. और ductile तब होगा when the structure can be bent. Bending का मतलब है ductile. Hammering and pressing into sheets and thin shapes वो आपको malleable property आ जाएगी. So here we have the reasons for high melting and boiling point, good conductors of electricity and heat, and malleability and ductile जो हमने अभी बात की. So the reason for high melting and boiling point was there are many strong metallic bonds in giant metallic structures. So large amounts of heat energy are needed to overcome forces and break these bonds. Then we talked about the second property, which was good conductors of electricity and heat. The reason is that metals are good conductors because of the free electrons that are available to move and carry the charge. When a metal is used in an electrical circuit, electrons entering one end of the metal cause a delocalized electron to displace itself from the other end. Hence, electrons can flow, so electricity is also conductive. तीसरी property आपके पास क्या थी? Malleability and ductile. Layers of positive ions can slide over one another and take up different positions. Now, this does not disrupt the metallic bonding as the valence electrons do not belong to any particular metal atom, and so they can move with the layers of positive ions, maintaining the electrostatic forces. Electrostatic forces ये charges के दरमियान होती हैं, positive negative charges के दरमियान जो forces होती हैं, we call them electrostatic forces. Now, the metallic bonds are thus not broken, and as a result, metallic bonds are strong but flexible. Therefore, they can be hammered into different shapes without breaking, which gives them the property of being malleable and also ductile. And this is the end of your chapter 4, metallic bonding. One of the parts of chemical bonding, the other two contain covalent and ionic bonding. But this is the end for metallic